Right, so today I'm going to run through the pitches that I've written for the journalists that I'm targeting for this. How many people are getting paid less than the minimum wage content piece. Um, so I'll put links to the ideation, the writing of the content, and the prospecting uh, in this video. And so I've segmented my journalists into four. So we've got national, we've got gender wage gap, we've got regional, we've got hyperlocal, and these are the pitches that each of them are going to get. Okay, so angle one is national. So an example journalist is Lawrence Matheson, who writes for The Mirror. So The Mirror, if you're based in the UK, it's like a left-wing tabloid paper. So it's like, you know, on the side of the people, or at least sort of wants to be, and but yeah, it's kind of like a trash story. Like you can get away with like sort of homemade studies and get in the paper with them. And he covers business, city, and financial news, which is what what we're doing. So the subject line is: Are you being paid less than minimum wage? So that will be the headline of the article that you want to write. It's sensationalist, clickbaity. This is what I mean by tabloid. Like they use clickbaity tactics. So the pitch: Hi Lawrence, with minimum wage rising to, I'm going to change that to having risen to £11.44 an hour in April 2024. Employment lawyers Duncan and Lewis analysed median salary data from the Office of National Statistics to find how many people were entitled to a pay rise. This links to our article. I've done the link to the Google Doc, but if I was actually doing this, would link to the article on your site. And the idea is that the article that the journalist writes includes the link, right? We found that 13% of full-time workers in the UK needed a pay rise in 2024 to match the minimum wage. Exact numbers and an easy stat to just copy and paste into your article. Women are 70% more likely to be paid less than minimum wage than men, even when both are in full-time work. Again, a very easy to put into your article statistic. The table below shows the percentage of people who need a pay rise in order to earn the minimum wage by gender and region. And we've got this table. Now, in an ideal world, I would turn this into an infographic and paste the infographic in here. But I'm not going to do that until I actually run this campaign properly. So for now, I'll just do it as a table. Commenting on these findings, Anthea Dave, employment consultant at Duncan and Lewis, said the majority of occupations where salaries fall under the minimum wage are in retail, care, warehousing, and transportation. These roles often have irregular hours, making it more difficult to keep a record of exactly what your hourly pay is. Although the minimum wage is £11.44 an hour for over 21s, this is calculated based on each individual paycheck. So if you work an average of 40 hours per week and are paid monthly, then your gross earnings must be at least £1,830. Anything below that is illegal. If you're worried about talking to your employer about being paid less than minimum wage, then bear in mind that victimization laws prevent an employer from treating an employee less favorably because they have challenged potentially illegal employment practices. Here is the study's methodology, and then I just wrote the methodology. Just gave them the methodology so they know we're not chatting shit, and they can look at the data itself if they want to. So it's hook, key findings, data, ideally as an infographic, but I'm just going to give them the data for now. Quote, and the quote, this bit of the quote is really important because it gives the reader actionable advice that they can take from the article. So that's what the journalist wants to give people. They want to do two things. They want to get the reader to click, They want to give the reader, precise, new and precise information that makes them feel outraged and also like confirms their existing beliefs. So that's what the first thing does. That's what the second thing does. You want to give them sort of more information, which is what we do here. Again, an infographic would be ideal, but I'm just doing a table for now. And then a quote. This is another opportunity to have your link if you want, or to showcase your person, get a bit of personal branding in there. And then like an actionable piece of information. The methodology is just to put the journalist's mind at ease that this is a proper study. It's not the journalist. I'm not expecting the journalist to publish this in their article. And hope this is useful. Please let me know if you need any information from me. Thank you. Okay, so this is our second angle, which is the gender wage gap angle. So an example of the journalist who I'm going to send this to is Nure. Have I spelled that right? Nure Bulbul. See, she writes. She's covered strikes, so she's sort of on the side of the workers, shall we say. She publishes this, which also looks like kind of a throwaway study. So I think she's open to publishing like PR type studies. And she has written about transgender rights. So again, I think something to do with the gender wage gap is going to sort of tickle her pickle. So, subject line, which is the headline. Women are 70% more likely than men to earn less than the minimum wage. And then ONS data analysis just to tell her that, like, I'm not just pulling this number out my ass. Hi, Nuri. Employment lawyers Duncan and Lewis analysed earnings data from the Office of National Statistics to look at how many people were earning under the minimum wage when it was last increased in April 2024. We found that female full-time workers were 70% more likely to earn under the minimum wage than men. And I say full-time workers specifically because people who dismiss the gender wage gap are often like, oh, well, women work part-time, blah, blah, blah. So this is like, no, I know that, but it's even then full-time. This is only full-time workers. So that's the key finding. Then we've got the table below shows the breakdown of people who need a pay rise to meet the 2024 minimum wage requirements by gender and region. And then we've got the genders and the regions. So what we can do there is we can, so she can, make headlines being like, if she wants to talk about specific regions, she has the opportunity to. Commenting on these findings, Anthea Dave, employment consultant at Duncan & Lewis, said, the health and social care sector is a big culprit for paying people below the minimum wage. Roles in this sector often have irregular hours, making it more difficult to keep a record of exactly what your hourly pay is. Although minimum wage is £11.44 an hour, this is calculated based on each individual paycheck. So if you work an average of 40 hours per week and are paid monthly, then your gross earnings must be at least £1,830 a month. Anything below that is illegal. If you're worried about talking to your employer about being paid less than the minimum wage, bear in mind that victimization laws prevent an employer from treating an employee less favorably because they have challenged potentially illegal employment practices. Then again, the study, and then, So again, we're focusing on just the gender pay gap thing, giving them no other information other than that, so the journalist knows exactly what to write about. Okay, so the third angle is regional, and in this instance, we're going to be talking about the West Midlands, but this can be translated to any of these big regions. So like Northeast, Northwest, Wales, Southwest, stuff like that. So in this case, we're emailing Richard Guttridge, who is the agenda editor covering Birmingham and the Black Country. he has covered the West Midlands for the best part of a decade. Very obvious what his beat is. So, again, headline: Are you being paid less than the minimum wage? Hi, Richard. With minimum wage having risen to £11.44 an hour in April 2024, employment lawyers Duncan and Lewis analysed median salary data from the Office of National Statistics to find out how many people were entitled to a pay rise. We found that 14% of full-time workers in West Midlands need a pay rise to match the 2024 minimum wage. Women are 91% more likely to need a pay rise than men in the West Midlands. Just now that to match minimum wage. 22% of full-time workers in Walsall needed a pay rise to match minimum wage, the highest in the West Midlands. You can see the table with a breakdown of locations below. And again, like, if I could make an infographic out of this, it would be even better. But there's the table. Anthea Dave, employment consultant at Duncan and Lewis, said the majority of occupations where salaries fall under the minimum wage are retail, care, warehousing, and transportation. These roles often have irregular hours, making it more difficult to keep a record of exactly what your hourly pay is. Although the minimum wage is £11.44 an hour, this is calculated based on each individual paycheck. So if you work an average of 40 hours per week and are paid monthly, then your gross earnings must be at least £1,830. Anything less than that is illegal. If you're worried about talking to your employer about being paid less than minimum wage, then bear in mind that victimization laws prevent an employer from treating an employee less favorably because they have challenged potentially illegal employment practices. And then again, I give them the methodology just to show them that we're not chatting shit. Hope this is useful. If you need any more information from me, please let me know. Cool. Sorry, I forgot to mention something, that in the gender wage gap angle, I tweaked the comment to just talk about the health and social care sector and to not talk about like warehousing and all of that stuff. And that's because out of warehousing, transport, and health and social care, the only female-dominated industry there is health and social care. So that's why I've honed in on that in the comments. So you tweak the comments based on what you're pitching is the moral of that story. Okay, and now this is the final one, the super local angle. So who we're emailing is Lyle Tweed from the Bolton News, who I cover Farnworth, Kersley, and everywhere else in Bolton South East. I don't like cricket, I love it. So yeah, this guy, he will only talk about Bolton or areas within Bolton. So, subject line: 29% of people in Bolton are being paid less than the minimum wage. And then I'm going to just put ONS data study, just to show them that, you know, we're not pulling this out of our ass. Hi, Lyle. With minimum wage having risen to £11.44 an hour in April 2024, employment lawyers Duncan and Lewis analysed median data salary from the Office of National Statistics to find out how many people were entitled to a pay rise. We found that 29% of full-time workers in Bolton are being paid less than the minimum wage. That's 50% higher than the average in the Northwest. So he covers other areas in the Northwest, so we've tied it into that. Bolton is the town with the third highest number of full-time workers being paid under the minimum wage in the UK. Only Oldham, which is also in the Northwest, and Northampton have more. The table below shows the number of people in the Northwest who need to pay rise in order to match minimum wage. Here's the table again, an infographic showing like the Northwest area and all the regions with all the data points would have been better, but I'm not going to do that for this demo. But if someone wanted to commission this, then, you know, I would do that. Anthea Dave, employment consultant at Duncan & Lewis, said that the majority of occupations where salaries fall under the minimum wage in retail care are in retail care, warehousing, and transportation. These roles often have irregular hours, making it more difficult to keep a record of exactly what your hourly pay is. Although the minimum wage is £11.44 an hour, this is calculated based on each individual paycheck. So if you work an average of 40 hours per week and are being paid monthly, then your gross earnings must be at least £1,830. Anything below that is legal. If you're worried about talking to your employer about being paid less than the minimum wage, then bear in mind that victimization laws prevent an employer from treating an employee less favorably because they've challenged potentially illegal employment practices. Here is the study's methodology. And then again, I'll give them the methodology. So yeah, that's the 4 different pitches for the 4 different types of journalists. They're all kind of similar, but if you segment them in this way, you're going to get a far higher conversion rate just for that little bit of extra segmentation.